This podcast is brought to you by Sci-Fi, the world leader in psychology fitness training. Sci-Fi is scientifically proven to help you optimize your physical, mental, and emotional performance through functional training of your brain, body, and breath. For the first time, have your own clinical psychologist, personal trainer, life coach, breathwork teacher, and mediation instructor all in one. Instead of having to wait months or even years for results, you get them in 75 minutes or less. That's the Sci-Fi difference. Rewire your brain, retrain your body, and refocus your breath. Learn more at psyfi.nyc.
It's been said, you, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life.
In the ring, I control my own destiny.
Absolutely.
I win, I lose. It's in my hands.
But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
I face life head on, but I've learned to welcome the challenges even in the ring.
From the boxing side of it, every time we fall, we get back up.
That's what Life's Tough, Boxers Are Tougher is all about.
In the guest corner, he comes to us from White Plains by way of the Bronx. He's a world-class promoter who has promoted over 170 live boxing cards, including the award-winning Rock and Fight series from the Paramount. He's a former district attorney and the 1988 Gold Gloves winner. Please welcome to the podcast the New York Boxing Hall of Famer, CEO of Star Boxing, Mr. Joe DeGuardia.
Thank you, Matt.
How are you?
Thank you. All right, doing okay.
It's great to have you, man. One of the things I could have done your intro. It could have been pretty much the whole time we're going to be together here because you have a lot of accolades. Being an accomplished lawyer as well as a great amateur fighter and now a world-class promoter. But actually, what I didn't add into your bio, which is you're kind of the guy that launched me into the boxing industry again. So I'd always been around boxing, but now I'm kind of, I've gotten to write a couple of great articles about Star Boxing and a lot of your shows and stuff. So including the Ring magazine. So I'm appreciative. So I'm really glad to have you on the show.
No, absolutely glad to be on. And, I tell you, we could have had you in a different way. We could have had you as the victorious Viking. I put you in that ring there.
Yeah, that's a lot of people don't know that. That's kind of my code name at Star Boxing is the Viking, which is great. Yeah, so look, we're like I said, you're actually the first promoter we've had on the show, so that's kind of a cool fact. And of course, we had to have you first. So again, we're grateful to have you.
That's very good. That's a good show, and you're doing a good job. And it's great that you switched it all around. You put the first instead of saving the best for last.
Hey, we one of the things before we get into it, obviously I would be remiss if I didn't how's Joe Smith doing, number one, and then give us just a little sneak peek. I had lunch with Tony Palmieri the other day. I couldn't get anything out of him, except I did get he treated me to lunch, but give us a little sneak peek of what's coming down the pike for Star Boxing.
Well, Joe Smith is doing okay. He's disappointed, and obviously, he wishes there was a third round to go forward, but he'll be back. It's tough in that ring. Life is tough, but boxers are tougher. So are champs. And he'll be back, and I'm confident in Joe. And, he's got a knack for coming back even better. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome.
And for Star Boxing, we got a couple things in the pipe that we're working on, a couple of little surprises we're trying to put together, and hopefully we're going to have some good announcements in the near future.
All right, excellent. I knew it was gonna be tough to get something out of you. I was trying. I tried to get.
We're working on. Normally promoters want to promote, right? But this particular project I'm working on, and I want to get it all buttoned up and done. It'll be good for Star Boxing, certainly. It'll be good for us. It'll be good for the sport. And it's going to have some new, fresh, and interesting things. But I got to get it buttoned up first.
Nice. All right.
So up until that, the lips are sealed.
Nice. All right. All right. We'll keep it going. So, Joe is a world class promoter. Has promoted several champions, some great names of note. We just talked about Joe Smith Jr., who was his latest champ. Um, and we've actually had quite a few of star boxing. Obviously it's a natural fit. We've had a lot of star boxing guys on the show, so it's good to have the CEO on. So it's pretty cool.
Good to be good and good to be on, and it's like I said, you guys are doing a good job out there. I like the moniker and keep it going.
Excellent. Well, look, the name, we said the name of the show, Life's Tough, Boxers Are Tougher. Tell us, you've had to overcome quite a few things. Tell us one of the challenges and tell us why you're tougher than life.
Matt, it's difficult to sit here and pinpoint, precisely, well, this is the biggest challenge, and, this is why, boxers, are crafted in a certain way to fight in life. You know, you go through a lot of challenges in life, and everybody does, whether it be family, people, things growing up. You know, I grew up a certain kind of lifestyle, a certain kind of life. That to me, I credit boxing to keeping me, keeping me on the right arrow. I went through, came up in a certain kind of neighborhood, a certain kind of area. It was a tough area. You could go astray very easily, like a lot of my friends did, people I grew up with. But boxing kept me on the right, and I think in every aspect of my life, boxing has been there for me because it's developed my character, developed strength, and I think that's what boxing does in people. I guess you don't have to look any further than my car accident. You know, I credit boxing for giving me the strength to get up when doctors said I couldn't get up, and push through when doctors said I couldn't push through, and when they said it would take months to learn how to walk again, I forced myself and pushed myself so I could walk out that door in 3 days. Those kinds of things I think are the things that boxing develops and creates in a fighter, and it's that fighter mentality to be able to push through things in life, even though life is tough, and even though you go through difficult parts and times in your life, that no matter what's going on, you got to force your way through and push through. And that's what I think, in terms of boxing. I grew up, my father was a fighter, my uncle was a fighter. I grew up a certain way, you got to push. You got to push yourself through. And if it turns out that you have, like a fight, like in your fight, if you're getting hit, you get knocked down, you get up and you get back in there and you throw punches, and that's what life is like. And boxing makes you tough.
Joe, for the people who don't know, set the scene for us on the accident. I know it was after one of the Rock and Fight shows, and you were driving on the LIE, correct?
Yeah, I was driving on the LIE. I was coming home from a boxing show. It was late at night, and I was driving on the LIE. I don't know if people know the LIE, but it's 4 lanes on each side with a divider in between that you can't cross over. It's a steel girder across, and it's a major expressway. And there was a fellow driving the wrong way, going the opposite direction, and we hit head on, 60 on 60.
Wow.
And there was a massive accident.
Jeez. You're very lucky to be alive, let alone walking and in good shape too.
No, look, I was very fortunate. I had somebody looking out for me, I guess, up over there. And again, like I said, I pushed my way through. The young man that hit me, wasn't as fortunate. He died in the accident. It was a shame. He was going the wrong way. He was intoxicated, and I was fortunate. The newscaster that interviewed me in the hospital was crying because she couldn't believe she was interviewing the guy who was not at fault and was still alive, me, because most of the time it's the other way. But I was fortunate to have survived.
Wow. You are very fortunate. Yeah, I saw a lot of the pictures, and that's obviously it was before we met, but I had actually heard about it. So yeah. So what were the doctors telling you?
Well, I mean, the doctors, thought it was going to take me a long time to recuperate. Atrophy sets in, your legs and things like that. I mean, I couldn't move my toes, the first day after the accident.
Wow.
But I had found out that my back wasn't broke, my spine wasn't broke. I had a bunch of broken ribs and, things like that, torn meniscus and all that stuff. But when I learned that my spine was intact and I didn't have internal bleeding and the like, the doctors were telling me, you're okay, your spine didn't go, but, it's going to take you time to learn how to walk, things like that. And, what I had said was, what are you talking about? The accident just happened yesterday, right? Or 2 days ago. I can walk, stand me up, And after a battle back and forth with the doctor and, friends of mine that were in the hospital and things like that, they agreed to stand me up. And they stood me up and, I went about nowhere. I tipped right over and they caught me, but every hour, 2 hours, I was hitting that buzzer and making them come back in to stand me back up, and after about the 7th or 8th try, I started to be able to move a little bit. And like I said, 2 days later, I was walking out of the hospital.
Yeah. I mean, that's not a miracle. I don't know what it is. That's pretty impressive. And it's like you said, it's damn lucky. So thank goodness.
No, you know what it is, Matt? Again, it's you have to push through. Sometimes you got to push through that pain factor, Same thing with the, they give you a morphine drip in the hospital, and, I wasn't taking the morphine, and, dealing with that pain, and every once in a while I'd have to take a little, hit of it. But like I wasn't following the instructions on how many I should take because I just didn't want to be in that position of being reliant upon the medical, medicines and things like that. And, I pushed myself a little bit through it. And it worked. I was fortunate. I was fortunate to do that. And, again, I think, and I attribute a lot of that to the boxing, background of fighting your way through things. Sometimes you got to push through.
Yeah. Again, I just can't even imagine, we had Vinny Pazienza on, he went through his car accident and, he was back in the ring 13 months later, which I thought was insane. And, the fact that you were walking out of the hospital 3 days after getting a head-on collision on the Long Island Expressway. Our producer, Isaac, for the show, I told him prior to getting on, I said, look, if you want to lose your faith in humanity, just commute every day on the Long Island Expressway, and you will not believe the crazy stuff you will see with people. So, well, I mean, thank God everything worked out. I had a funny transition question for you. So you go from winning the Gold Gloves, and then did you go to law school after the Gold Gloves?
No, I actually was in law school when I won the Golden Gloves.
Wow.
Believe it or not, when I was 17, I had gotten into a car accident. I was training for the Olympics then and things like that. And I was in the passenger seat. And, my cousin says the tree jumped in front of his car, so I actually went through the windshield on that one.
Oh, my gosh.
And so I was off for a couple of years boxing. And then I, came back. They told me I'd never fight again. But, I did. I had that desire to box. And, I came back and I was in law school when I won the gloves and I was hoping to get on the Olympic team in 1988. So I was actually in law school when I won it. It was an experience being in law school and training and fighting, but it was my desire and my dream.
Yeah, and then you decided to become a lawyer versus turning professional.
Yeah, well, I come from a boxing family. My father was
Yeah,
a pro. My uncle was a pro. They were really, really vested in the pro game. And needless to say, my father hated me fighting. He didn't
yeah,
want me to fight. He was okay with it for the gloves and okay with it for the Olympics, but as far as he was concerned, I'm in my last year of law school, and he didn't want me to fight. So all these guys were coming with big offers and stuff. My father would kick him out, and don't tell him anything, leave him alone. He's going to law school. He's going to be a lawyer, the whole bit. And I understand it. It's a tough game, boxing. And at the time,
right.
I had that accident when I was 17, and I was, doing all the fights in boxing and over 100 amateur fights and things like that. And the way he looked at it was, you're in law school, you just graduated, you know, why do it? And he didn't want me to do it. And truthfully, I respected my father a lot, and I knew it would have broke his heart if I would have, made a career in the ring, and I didn't do it.
Yeah, and then so they must have been, your parents must have been supremely relieved that you become a lawyer, you become, a district attorney in the Bronx, which I thought was tremendous. But then, of course, you go back to boxing. I mean, albeit not in the ring, but you go back and promote. What was their reaction to that?
My father said, "Are you crazy?" you know, look, my father was great, and he always supported whatever we did. To be honest, no matter what it was, no matter what it is. But he also felt the business of boxing was a brutal business. I'll never forget. I also know, the Akuntos and stuff like that. And one of them said, "Listen, Joe, you're too nice to be in this game. You can't do business in this game. You know, it's a brutal game." And it is. It's a brutal business. It's a very tough business. And, my father saw I was successful in the law. I mean, I was a district attorney, and then, I had my own practice, and, I was making good money, outside of boxing. And, it wasn't, he couldn't really, he understood it because I loved the sport. And that's why I did it. When I stopped boxing, I couldn't sleep for years. I'd be looking at the ceiling, thinking about how I want to get back in the ring and still fight. You know, so I guess you understand that because it's in our blood. Particularly myself and my family. We grew up with this. But it was a tough transition. He thought about a lot. Why are you going into boxing, the business? You got your law degree. Do it for fun, stuff like that. But you're making money in the law. What are you doing? And boxing is a tough business. It's a very tough business.
Yeah,
But again, like I said, my father was supportive of everybody, no matter what it was. And deep down, I guess he loved the sport. So it was a way. I guess he stayed involved in the sport as well, which was good.
yeah, that had to be pretty cool. You guys got to do a lot of stuff together. I know. But that's I laugh because we've had people on and they've told the story like, we people that didn't go to medical school that became professional fighters. So at least you got the degree first, and then
Yeah.
went into the boxing business. So, um, you know, you keep saying you say it's a tough business, and it absolutely is. Tell us some of the challenges on the promotional side.
Listen, I mean, every aspect of the game is challenging, and certainly on the promotional side, I mean, it's just I like being in the ring doing the fighting better. It's a challenging business. There's a lot of difficult aspects of the business, from everything from making the fights and dealing with a lot of the issues that take place in making a fight. There's so many things that need to come together in order for a fight to be made and a show to come off. There's a lot of work putting the shows together, particularly when you're doing local shows and club shows. When you're doing the bigger shows, it's a lot easier, to be honest. You have the venue, you have the casinos, you have the television. But when you're, piecing it together on a club level, those shows are very difficult and hard. And, you have a lot of people in the sport, namely regulators, that believe that they're doing, the task that they're supposed to be doing. And they probably have good intentions, but they end up hurting the very people they're trying to help, the fighters, and things like that. So those kinds of things, when you're in the business long enough and you see and you know where these pitfalls are and you know where these problems are, it's a discouraging business, because sometimes you see things occur that you wish didn't.
Can you give us an example, like some stuff that you've had to deal with on that front? Because I you're right. I know some of the challenges, but can you share some of that with our audience?
Look, there's so many. I mean, I did a show in June 11th, the week before Joe Smith's show, and on that show, we lost the opponent for Cletus Eldon. We lost the opponent for Tyrone James. And those are heartbreaking things, for us as a promotional company. We do a lot of work, spend a lot of money, bring people across the world to fight. And all of a sudden the fight doesn't take place. It's disheartening for the fighters that train and are looking to fight, and all of a sudden it gets pulled out from under them. And it's disheartening for fans and, that come to the fights and are expecting to see a certain fighter and can't see him fight. So those are things that are part of the game that you look at and you don't particularly like. And, knowing what I know and experiences and things like that, and, I see certain things that occur that you say, look, you could correct these things. These are things that can be fixed, and, we can handle this in a different way. But it's unfortunate, when it happens, and not to go into particulars and details, it happens not just to me, it happens to everybody. It happens to other promoters, and, it's just prevalent in the business, though, and it's a shame, because, there's a lot of parts of this business that are spectacular and great people in the business. And even the ones, like when you talk about a regulator and they might think, they're doing, good for a fighter and saying, hey, we're not going to allow that fight to happen for this, and this reason, or whatever it might be. And a lot of times they're really not doing a service to them, to those fighters. But like I said, it happens throughout the industry. It happens throughout, to other promoters, and a lot of fighters and managers go through it. But it's disheartening, and it makes the business tougher than it needs to be, particularly when you have so many other variables in the business. This is not baseball. This is not a game. These guys, they're training in a gym, and they could be sparring a week before the fight, and you can get hit.
It happened to George Foreman, right?
Yeah,
it happened to George Foreman in
happen.
Ali. Yeah, they had halfway around the world, and
they got cut.
Yeah.
So all those things can happen on its own. Those are your own risks in the game. But now when you throw everything else in, and then, by the way, that's not enough. Let's throw COVID in too, Everything comes into the game, it's crazy. You got flights that are delayed, airlines that can't get here, visas you can't get into the country. I don't know, everybody can get through the border, but for some reason a lot of times you can't get fighters into the country. So, so many things take place. It's it's a challenging business, but I love it. It's a business I love. It's the sport that I love. The business I don't love, the sport I love.
Has there been anything that have you ever considered, like, look, again, you have a law degree, you have a law practice. Have you ever considered hanging it up?
Listen, it's, when you're in that ring and you're boxing, they say once you taste the leather, you're hooked. I've tasted the leather, so when all is said and done, I take a few more shots. All right? Life's got a lot of shots out there. People are always looking to hit at you. When you're successful, people are always looking to get at you. All right, and that's life. That happens in life. It happens in our business, in boxing and stuff like that. So, like anything else, I'll deal with the lumps. I'll slip and move, and take the shot when a fight gets postponed or canceled, or you got to deal with it. Those are things I'll deal with and move on. So I don't really look at it and saying, okay, I'm going to pack it in. No. But with that being said, I don't get hit with the same punch twice. I try not to. All right. So I learn from it, and I try to figure out ways to correct it. And, that's one of the things I'm working on right now, to fix a few things, because I think some things in the industry need to be changed, and certain things in the business need to be changed. And, I'm looking for ways to make it better.
Nice. Anything particular you want to share on that?
Not at this time. Right now, I'm buttoned up. Buttoned up. You know what it is? You know what it is, Matt? I can't tell you if I'm going to throw a left hook or a right hand, right?
Well, it certainly makes it easier for the other guy if you do. Are you? Do you think that boxing's starting to get back into a boom time now? I mean, much to my beautiful wife's chagrin, there's no boxing season, and there is a lot of outlets now for boxing. Do you think boxing's in a boom, or do you think it's still like a bear market here?
No, I think boxing is doing well. We're not thriving, and there's a lot of problems in the sport that need to correct itself. And there are areas in the sport where you can look and say, "Hold, what's going on? That road, there's a cliff at the end of that road, and I don't even see a sign that says, stop." So there's a lot of dead ends in the sport, but boxing has always been able to come back. Boxing itself is like your Monica. Boxers are tougher than life. And boxing itself has gone through so many times where people thought, that guy ain't getting up, but boxing gets up. And whether it be years ago when just before the Ali time and they thought boxing was dead, right? And the lifestyle of the 50s and the thriving sport of the 50s was gone, right? And then Ali revived it. Yeah. And, then when Ali was gone, they said, it'll never be big like that again. And you had big fights again. You ended up having the Olympic team in 76. You had Duran. Yeah. You had Leonard became the darling star. Later, you had Mike Tyson. When everybody said it was all done, you'll never see that kind of stuff again. De La Hoya breaks all the records, and then De La Hoya you'll never see that again. Mayweather ends up coming up, or Roy Jones. There's always something, because this is a special sport. So we might deal with a lot of hurdles, and you might say, well, the UFC's out there and this and that. And boxing's been through all of that before. Ultimately, boxing to me is the best sport in the world. It's got every element in it. Human life, human drama, you need character, you have an art and a discipline at the same time. And these things come into play, and people appreciate that. And I think that right now you have a younger generation that might like that fast and that, UFC type and 5 rounds and it's over quick or whatever it might be. But beer drinkers many times develop and become Scotch drinkers, or develop and become bourbon drinkers, or wine drinkers. They learn the finer tastes in life. And that happens in boxing. They start to learn the finer taste of it, the finer art of it. And that's why I think it always survives, because there's a real art and science to boxing. And yes, you need that raw grit, determination, strength, power. Okay, you need those raw things that come from the streets, but you also need fighters are much more intelligent, scientific, and know their sport better than practically any other sport, because it's a real art. And that art comes across, and people want to see that art as well. And that art is, that Art. Look at Arthur Beterbiev. I mean,
Yeah.
he's not a boxer or mover, but he's an artisan. Okay, he's scientific. Okay, and he's talented, and those kinds of things are in this sport, and it's appreciated. And people, the more you're around it, the more you see it, the more you appreciate it.
Yeah, and it's fine. I would go. One thing I would add to that is, I posted this and I published this recently. Is that, like it or not, and whatever people say about boxing, it has always been America's conscience, right? So it's always been the one sport that has been America's conscience because all of the stuff that this country always goes through, boxing, for being the kind of sport it is, it is absolutely transcends so many different problems that we have in this country right now. And I always felt like that. I said that to somebody. They're like, "No, it's awful. It's an awful thing." And I'm to say, I'm like, "No, it's 100% true." From Joe, talking about Joe Louis and Ali, and all the different things that we've seen over time in boxing. So,
you hit that right on the head, and it's true. And boxing is, it's where you could literally see a billionaire next to the local guy from the street.
Absolutely.
Okay? And
Rockin' Fights. I've seen it at Rockin' Fights. I've legit
and
seen a billionaire
together.
at Rockin' Fights. I legitimately saw a billionaire there. Yeah, that's true.
And it's real. And it's what makes this sport so special. And you know what? It also transcends problems. People talk about racial and this and that. Not in the boxing gym.
Yeah.
You go to that boxing gym, everybody's together. Okay, I grew up in gyms all my life. Right? Everybody was together. Okay, and it never really mattered. It transcends everything. And when you get in that ring, it transcends everything because you have more respect for somebody when you're in that ring with somebody and then you walk out of that ring. Okay, so, I believe it should be in colleges. I believe you should have more of it. Boxing I think it's a great thing. So there's a lot of pluses to this sport. And it's one of the reasons why I'm still in it.
So I've been dying. There's a couple questions I'm dying to ask you. We're going to go to the Fast Five, but I got a couple things I got to ask first. That I've literally known you, quite a while now, but there are questions I've got to ask you. So the one question I've always wanted to ask you is that you had mentioned him earlier, Roy Jones Jr. What were you thinking when Antonio Tarver said, "You got any excuses tonight, Roy"? What was going through your mind? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was great. I almost felt, and I don't know if the stadium went dead silent, but I felt like the stadium went dead silent. Like I went dead silent. Like everything just stopped in my mind. It was something else. And then when he actually knocked him out, in 2 rounds, I think it was the second round.
Yeah.
But it was spectacular. I love Roy. I did a lot of business with Roy in fights and stuff, and he's made boxing in some respects real successful for me because those Tarver fights were huge.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you know it. About 7 years before that, I had another world champion, Lou Duval.
Yeah, Lou
Duval. My first fight I ever had.
Oh, I knew that.
But
I knew that. Yeah.
He dropped Roy Jones at Madison Square Garden Theater. Yeah, it was the first one to ever drop Roy, and so it was nice when I finally got somebody that actually keep him down. It was pretty good.
Oh,
I said that's the one mistake I made in boxing, because when he dropped Roy, what I should have did, I should have jumped in the room and said, "All right, we won," into the ring and hugged him and everything. And then I could have said, "I was inexperienced. I don't know. I didn't realize you didn't knock him out." And it would have been a no contest. We'd fight again.
That was impressive. What about one of your fighters? He fought the current legitimate heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury. Do you remember what you were thinking? When you saw Fury fight Vinny Matalone? It was Vinny Matalone. When you saw Tyson Fury, did you think that he could be a heavyweight champion?
Yeah, actually, I actually, we thought a lot of him. I mean, he was very fast. Vinny felt very confident that, that he would be heavyweight champion of the world. Vinny said he was extremely fast for such a big guy, you know. But, you don't look. It's like guys. When I was young and I went to the gym once, I went to Custom Models gym years ago, and I was a kid. I was, maybe 15, I think, and maybe 16, and Mike Tyson was there,
Wow.
and he was about 12, 13. I don't remember what it was, but Cuss was talking then how he was going to be champ, Mike Tyson,
Yeah.
but we hear those things so many times in boxing. I have guys that come in every time, this one's the best, this one's going to be champ, this one punches like a mule, Joe Smith when he came, his guys told me nobody punches like him, but still you hear it so many times and it doesn't really penetrate,
Yeah.
so as much as Vinny was saying this guy's going to be world champion, being heavyweight champion is a pretty big task, and he did. He became heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury.
Yeah. Well, again, I can't thank you enough. Clearly, look, law degree, gold gloves, world-class promoter, New York Boxing Hall of Fame. Clearly, you're tougher than life. The only question I have now is, are you tougher than the Fast Five? Because I'm going to ask you 5 questions. I want to see how you do on the 5 questions.
A couple accidents, a lot of over 100 fights, damages. I boxed every day. Some kid, I don't know. You might get me there.
All right, so who's your? We'll do an easy one. Who's your favorite fighter growing up?
Growing up, I had a couple. I was in a boxing family, so my father was always somebody I looked up to, and Muhammad Ali. We went through all the stuff with Ali when I was real young. Everybody hated him, and it was all back and forth. But he was, he was something special. I was always Rocky Marciano because I grew up in an Italian neighborhood, Italian culture, And then my father always used to try to import to me Willie Pep and how he'd be able to move and, how sharp he was as a boxer, pure boxer. So Willie Pep was always there. And then as I was getting more and more into boxing, my father always taught me, your favorite fight is yourself. Be the best, Yeah. So I used to have that in my mind. So I guess those 5.
Nice. All right.
What a fabulous
answer.
5.
All right. How about your favorite boxing movie?
Rocky. I like Rocky.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, we've gotten that question. We've asked that question quite a bit, and we've gotten a lot of different answers. So, but Rocky is definitely the prevailing.
I like Rocky. It was great. And when the movie came out, I had sparring partners left and right. They'd only last for a couple of minutes, but tons of sparring partners. Everybody wanted to fight. And they wanted to get up after they got dropped,
Yeah.
But there's so many good boxing movies. I mean, The Champ, and it's just so many of them. But Rocky, age-wise and things like that, it sticks.
Nice. All right, tell us a funny promoter story.
Oh, I have so many of them. Forget about it.
Well, let me ask you this: can you confirm that you got chased by alligators when Aaron Davis was trying to take a dump in New Orleans?
Yeah, we got chased by alligators. Listen, we got chased by alligators. I had stories where I got chased by guys with guns trying to get money from us at the venues. I got stories where we had to go catch a trainer. We had a major world championship fight, and the guy was he was getting nervous before the fight, so he was drinking it up a little bit, So we caught him late night before the weigh-in the night before. So we said we got to watch him now the night of the weigh-in. The fight's tomorrow, So I put one of my guys on him, and then he was supposed to be watching. He said, "All right, he's in his room, he's sleeping." And then we're at the bar in the lobby, and I spot this guy walking by. I said, you know what he did? He had a long overcoat, and he was dressed like a woman, and he had the mop that he took from the maid and made it his hair.
Oh,
and he was trying to walk out.
That's a commitment to drinking.
But I noticed his walk. He always had a certain walk to him. I told my cousin, Johnny, That's him. What are you doing? We had to go get him. We caught him before he went out. We put him in his bed. We had to keep the guy in the hallway to keep him locked in there.
Oh my
But
goodness.
so many stories. You're in the business so many years. It's a lot of funny memories.
All right, I got to ask this one too. This wasn't on the script, but I'm going to ask it. What's the? So I got this story secondhand. I'll tell you who told me, so you can confirm or deny it. But Randy Gordon, the commish, told me that one time you had a boxer, and he was on the scale, and he hit a cell phone in his underwear. Is that true? and it went off. While he was on the scale.
Yeah, well, I tell you, that was years ago. It was Larry Barnes, who
my God, I know him. I actually know him. Yeah, he's a great
fought
guy.
Larry, and I beat Larry for the Golden Glove championship.
Yeah,
but
I actually know him
that,
personally.
After Larry's a great guy, but after that, I promoted his fights, and that's actually a good story, I mean, he was one of my first fighter that I promoted, the first fight. But we were at the commission. They had those big giant scales. And he had his shorts on. Back then you were allowed to weigh in. You had your shorts on and stuff. He was under the weight. And the other guy he was fighting was over the weight. So Larry didn't care because Larry was really the A-side guy.
Yeah.
The other guy was an opponent, but it was maybe an 8-pound difference, and it had to be a 7-pound difference or whatever it might be. So Larry gets on the scale, and he's got coins in his pockets and stuff like that. He's got to get that extra. And back then, the cell phones were bigger. These were, late 90s, and they were bigger phones. But he had it in his pocket, and he went on the scale, and just as he's on the scale, about to announce his weight, the phone rings. And actually, Larry goes into his pocket, picks it up, and says, "Joe, it's for you." That was good.
That's a good story. That's a good story. We'll take
that was good. You
right,
can't do those things these days because now you can't even have a chain on.
I know.
The guy's wearing an earring, you got to take it off.
I saw that my favorite was the guy who wanted to wear the mask. The guy who was he was from Mexico. He was like a luchador, and he wanted the mask on, and he was so committed to that mask that afterwards I saw him eating when he was like eating, and he was eating with the mask on, but he was like lifted the mask up under, and he was eating under the thing. So that was funny. I remember the commissioner was not having it. All right, so look, you said you grew up in the Bronx. Morris Park, gyms in the Bronx. Tell us the best place to eat in the Bronx.
Oh, listen, the Bronx is loaded. First of all, the best place to eat is at one of my family's houses. Because you get nice big gravy and I eat well. Yeah. But so many places in the Bronx. I mean, I like Roberto's a lot. Patricia's on the Avenue where my office was. The Pine. I mean, there's so many good places. But Roberto's is pretty good by Arthur Avenue.
Nice. Okay.
But again, you know what, Matt? Same thing. What are you in the mood for? Or you could also go to Cosenza's and go right on the right on the street and have the clams on the half shell right from the ice. There's so many places you can go. Mike's Deli if you want to eat Heroes. There's just so many places to go and eat. And truthfully, I go to all of them. No more welterweight for me.
yeah, but
you could come because you're a Viking. You're a heavyweight. It's okay.
Yeah, I was. The first time I ever got involved in boxing, I was super middleweight, 167. Those days are long. I would have to cut my leg off to get to that now. Well, listen, we don't want to jam anybody up on the show, so we don't stump anybody. So, but I'm gonna have to. There's no shot, a clean joke, right? Like
clean joke.
Yeah, no way, right? I mean, if I'm wrong, correct me, and I would love to hear you tell us a clean joke, but I'm going to guess you don't.
You want a clean joke? I could probably give you a clean joke, but it'll take too long for me to tell it.
All right. Hey, tell us, how about a crazy DA story? Not a lot of people that we've talked to tell us something when you were a district attorney. Tell us something crazy that happened when you were a district attorney.
Oh, so many things. Again, it's a funny, world you're living in. I mean, I've we used to have a judge there. He used to, just by way of example, one of the things when you work for the prosecutor is you always have to say people are ready. Okay, if you're ready, all right, and if you're not ready, time counts, and the defendant can get out and things like that. So we'd be in a part, and it's a fast-moving part, 150 cases a day. You're moving things out real quick. So you'd say, people are ready, and there was a judge there. He was a little crazy. He used to carry 2 guns all the time. They used to call him 2 guns. And he used to say, people are ready. That's the biggest lie. You know the 3 biggest lies. And he goes through those things, and except his 3rd biggest one was, and the people are ready. So don't give me that nonsense. He says, don't you say people are ready. Don't you say it. You'd say people are ready. Pull the guns out. I'm going to shoot you. Lock them up.
You can imagine that happening today. That would be like,
yeah, no.
I can't even imagine.
It was crazy back then. But the Bronx was a fun place to work, though. A real fun place to work. That was 2 guns cone.
Oh my gosh. Well, Joe, once again, I can't thank you enough. Hey, tell everybody where they can find you guys on social media. You got a date yet for the next Rocket Fights?
Well, social media, you can find us, obviously, starboxing.com. You can find us, on Twitter and Instagram and all of them. The handle's at starboxing. We actually just loading up right now, and I think we're live with it on our website. You can now get our merchandise, which is, we sell a lot of merchandise at our shows. People are all over it. So we put it online now, and so you can go to Starboxing at Shopify or our webpage. You'll see a link to it, and you can now buy our merchandise online. You can go to YouTube and watch our fights online. We're about to launch our own station. So there's a lot of things going on, so you can catch us there. And we'll have our announcement in about 2 weeks, I think it's going to be, for our next show at the Paramount, which will be in late September.
Excellent. Well, again, we can't thank you enough. Clearly, you're tougher than life, and it's great to have you, buddy.
All right, great being on.
That's going to be the final bell for today's podcast. If you like what you hear, give us a like and hit the subscribe button with your best power punch. You can check us out at Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you can find quality podcasts. We hope our stories inspire you to fight on. We thank you for listening, and remember, life's tough, boxers are tougher. Have a great week, everyone.